Back, this is ENCA now. Let's turn our attention now to South African Airways. The state-owned airline has secured a much-needed cash injection. SAA has secured the 3.5 billion rand it requires to finance its working capital requirements until June. But negotiations are underway to get repayment terms extended with some of the banks. For the latest on this, I'm joined in studio by Tladi, who speaks on behalf of SAA. Thank you so much, Tladi. So this 3.5 billion rand, just explain what it is and, to what extent it helps you solve some of your liquidity challenges.
Thank you for the opportunity, Tulas. We are on record having indicated that we have funding requirements that can be quantified in the amount of 21.7 billion. And these funding will enable us to be able to effectively implement our turnaround strategy in order to bring the airline to financial sustainability. So that's the essence of it, and this is the amount of money that we need over a period of 3 years. Part of it will work and serve as working capital. Part of it will also be used to pay the debt that SAA has at the moment.
And you've secured this, just for clarity, by way of facility, a loan facility from some of the banks?
From the lenders, that's correct.
From the lenders.
Local lenders, that's correct.
What does that say about the how the lenders are viewing where you are as a business and also in terms of your turnaround strategy? I imagine that this must be a boost for you, that it says that there's at least buy-in and belief that you are in the right track at the very least.
We appreciate the fact that the lenders are also proceeding with caution because they are also in business and they also have to evaluate or assess risk. However, they are satisfied with the progress that we have made at the level of implementing the strategy, and the injection that we have received will keep the business running up until at least the end of the current financial year. So we'll continue to operate and stay in business. We have this injection that will keep the operations still going on.
But it's a bit like fighting fires, several flare-ups, isn't it? I mean, as you are reporting this 3.5 billion rand you've secured, there is some 9.2 billion rand which was going to be due at the end of March for you guys to pay back to, various lenders. How far are you with that process of ensuring that you renegotiate those terms?
Some of this process are still underway. Negotiations with the lenders are still underway where we are renegotiating better deals, better conditions in terms of repayment in order to ensure that really the business does not shut down. What is important is for us to recognize and appreciate that ever since the new management at the executive and the board level came on board, that is the leadership, SAA has made much progress that has also been reported upon in the media in terms of the implementation of our strategy. We have met some of our targets. Some of them we have already even surpassed at the level of revenue and cutting costs. So that is an important message which the lenders recognize. Hence, they have extended a hand and say that we are able and willing to come to your aid because we are seeing that you are able to make progress. Remember, we are on record saying that if we get the 21.7 billion that we need over a 3-year period, we should be able to break even by the end of 2021 financial year end.
So the best case scenario for you, and I suppose the best news that Tito Mboweni can present to you on Wednesday, is outlining how exactly he's going to fund that 21.7 billion rand that you need.
Our requirements have been presented and tabled with the shareholder. We are now waiting for the shareholder to respond. We don't know when the shareholder was going to respond. What we do know, however, is that we need the remainder of 21.7 billion. If you subtract or minus the amounts that have already been given, it is not a foregone conclusion that an announcement about SAA will be made on Wednesday. We just don't know. You and I can only speculate about it. All we know is that we need to be patient with the shareholder to make an announcement when they are ready to do so.
How will you pay the bill to Comair for that anti-competitive behavior? Because, I mean, in as much as we're talking about you making progress in one area, it's almost like taking one step forward and 2 steps back if you're going to be incurring bills for anti-competitive behavior. And I know that this is a long dragging matter of some 14 years.
Not
but
quite.
You now sit with about 1 billion rand, is it?
Not quite. We are not taking too many steps backwards. You are making reference to legacy issues, which sadly we cannot reverse. We can't undo them. What we need to do is to acknowledge them, find a way of managing them, and move forward. I think our progress needs to be measured on the basis of our performance ever since the new leadership took over. That's what needs to be assessed insofar as the progress that we are making is concerned. And insofar as the question of the 1 billion is concerned to ComAir, this is a matter that we have discussed. When the judgment was handed down by the Supreme Court of Appeal, it was an outcome of settlement between the two parties where we were able to renegotiate the terms of payment, and that was made the order of the court. So that means that there were engagements between the two parties. We agreed on how to pay them, but beyond that, in the amount that we presented as a part of our funding requirements, we foresaw that this is a possibility, and that detail has been factored into the funding requirements for the airline.
All right, clear the air for me then. We saw recently reports of unbundling at Eskom, not reports, in fact, the announcement by the President in his State of the Nation address. It seems something was said by yourselves as SAA that was interpreted in various ways in the various media that have been reporting. We've been holding off on those reports because we want to hear it from you. What exactly is happening in as far as the structure and the operating model of SAA is concerned?
I think NCA needs to be commended for that, for exercising patience so that they get the full facts. We are dealing here with an unfortunate situation of maybe the message that was lost in translation, if you like. Maybe somebody in anticipation, they thought that there's a template for state-owned entities, and if you have a situation of an unbundling for Eskom, it means that you'll automatically have an unbundling situation for SAA. So as the CEO was taking the stakeholder through the journey in terms of a strategy implementation, part of the detail that he referred to was a question of revisiting SAA's current operating model, and he made reference to the introduction of 3 business units, and it turns out that that was interpreted to mean that it's going to be 3 entities. The entity as the airline remains, SAA will remain as a single entity, but will have 3 business units that are superimposed, if you like, on the current route network that we have as we operate in the 3 segments: international, regional Africa, and domestic market in South Africa.
So it's 3 business units, it's not 3 separate entities with their own management?
Correct. It is 3 business units that form part of the airline, where we are looking at doing 2 things. 1, to increase the efficiencies, and 2, to bring more accountability. We operate in the business of transporting passengers and cargo, and as our aircraft take off and land, we are closely monitoring the profitability. So it's a case of saying that we are now going to hold specific individuals accountable for route performance at an individual level, of a sector level, but in a bigger picture where you are looking at the markets, domestic, regional, and international. But beyond that, it also empowers and affords our employees an opportunity for them to have a say in terms of how we need to deploy our resources so that issues of profitability become the issues that we are able to manage properly.
All right, let me then ask you about your routes to Malawi. I imagine that, at a time when you are in this process of a 3-year turnaround, you need all your routes to be functional. What's happening there? Have you resumed, and are you fully operational now? You had to suspend your routes, your flights to Malawi for a period of time last month, I think it was, because of certain concerns that had been raised by the South African Civil Aviation Authority.
That is correct. We fly to 2 points in Malawi. We fly to Blantyre and to Lilongwe. It was the Johannesburg-Blantyre sector that was affected. The key issue here in the main was the condition of the airport, where the Civil Aviation Authority took the decision that we need to suspend operations up until certain improvements have been effected in order to render the conditions safe for us to continue to operate. Those matters have been attended to. We presented a recovery plan to Civil Aviation Authority. We have even implemented some of the interventions, and they were satisfied with the measures that were implemented. Hence, we are allowed to resume operations.
So you've resumed?
we have indeed resumed.
All right, thank you so much, Tladi Tladi, who speaks on behalf of South African Airways, talking to us about various issues at the state-owned airline as we wait with bated breath to see what does Tito have in his bag of tricks on Wednesday to see if there'll be any announcement regarding, of course, South African Airways.